And now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akugha as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host, Mamode Akugha. In today's package, we take a trip across the Niger Delta to bring you some of the most interesting stories trending in the region. Our first port of call is Imo State, where the recent judgment of the Supreme Court on the 2019 governorship election dispute is still generating reactions from different interest groups in the Niger Delta and beyond. From Imo State, we move to Delta State to bring you an update on the $6.9 million James Onanefe Ibori Loot. Next on our lineup is the controversial debate trailing Governor Nyesom Wike's alleged denigration of royal fathers at the just concluded first quarterly meeting of the Rivers State Council of Traditional Rulers in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. We will, in the course of the program, highlight some recent activities of the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs in its quest to transform the Niger Delta region. And finally, in today's package, are reports on the state of environment in Rivers and Bayelsa states. For more details on the program, we urge you to stay tuned as Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, will be back in just a moment. Don't go away.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Welcome back. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. Reactions have continued to trail the recent judgment of the Supreme Court that sacked Emeka Ihedioha of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) and installed Senator Hope Uzodinma of the All Progressives Congress (APC) as duly elected governor of Imo State. In a unanimous ruling on Tuesday, January 14, the Apex Court averred that about 230,695 votes were illegally excluded from 388 polling units that were said to be the strongholds of Hope Uzodinma. With the court's ruling that the said excluded votes be added, Uzodinma, who initially came a distant fourth in the 2019 Imo Governorship Election with 96,458 votes, was declared winner, having secured the majority of lawful votes. The Supreme Court maintained that the lower court erred in their rulings, which dismissed the evidence presented by Uzodinma as lacking merit and directed the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to withdraw the certificate of return earlier issued to Ihedioha for transmission to Uzodinma. Following INEC's compliance with the Supreme Court's directives, Uzodinma has been sworn in as the duly elected governor of Imo State. Though the Supreme Court's verdict on the Imo governorship election dispute remains final, it has been one judgment, too many reactions. This was how some lawyers reacted to the Apex Court's ruling on the Imo State governorship election dispute.
It's important to salute the judiciary on the timeous adjudication of this matter. We've had in the past where an electoral matter took over 3 years to determine. Bearing the misgivings that have been, has given rise to outcry. The advice for Imo State people is to take it in good faith. It's the Supreme Court, so it's the final court. It has decided. So the states, the indigents, the inhabitants should go about their normal businesses. We hope that there will be other cases in future where the Supreme Court can clear some of the gray areas. At our arisen in this matter, there are quite some gray areas.
A cursory look at that judgment tells me that it is one that the Supreme Court should look at again. Once more time, look at the judgments, particularly with regards to the figures that we gather, the implication of the additional votes from Uzodinma's election results. It tells me that something basically is wrong somewhere. and also from the point of view of the manner in which those results were brought in to court. And it's not correct that it's part of the fact that INEC, neither INEC nor any of the parties debunked or controverted it. Does not mean that it is all round correct. I think Supreme Court should look at it once again, particularly the source of those result sheets. I don't see any court anywhere, no matter the jurisdiction or jurisprudence, that cannot reverse itself on very critical areas once the criteria is established, and it is always established in every jurisdiction and every jurisprudence, that if a judgment of a court is obtained by fraud, or it is obtained with a mistaken belief that the parties consented to it, or there's total want of jurisdiction by the court, or the judgment itself or the decision of the court deprives the judgment of the character of a legitimate adjudication, or that the judgment looked at from its entirety connotes of one that is imbued or replete with fundamental irregularity, of course, the Supreme Court of Nigeria, like every other court, can set aside its decisions on proper grounds, on an application by an individual who is affected by that judgment.
Inside the Niger Delta.
And away from politics in Imo State, we go to Delta State. Executive Director of the African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEEJ, a transparency and accountability-based non-governmental organization, Comrade David Ugolo, says the Delta State Civil Society Roundtable on Ground Corruption is demanding the transfer of the sum of $9.6 million Ibori Loot to the Delta State government for appropriation to benefit the common people when it is finally released by the government of the United Kingdom. Ugolo, who made a clarification on an interview conducted recently in Benin City, the Edo State capital, said his group recently confirmed the repatriation of the stolen funds by the UK authorities and immediately contacted the federal government, only to discover that the Delta State government was left in the dark on the recent bilateral agreement between both countries.
During the negotiation between the British government and the Nigerian government, we found that the Nigerian government has suggested some projects that this money could be used for. We are against that proposal because first, the money we're talking about belongs to the Delta State people. They should send the money back to the state where whatever anything that has happened. So Ibori assets seized by the British government that need to be returned to Delta State should not be used for project at the federal level, should be returned back to the Delta State people. And I'm happy that the federal government is open to discussion.
The human rights activist said the Delta State government had been contacted on the recent development, but noted that his group will closely monitor the appropriation of the anticipated Ibori Loot to ensure that it benefits the economically marginalized citizens of Delta State.
We want to see that the money returned back, but the money also need to be used for projects that will benefit the Delta State people. And the Delta State government need to also make commitment to sign on to principles like the OGP principles that, again, re-emphasize the need for good governance, transparency, transparent procurement system. All these are really important if the Delta State government must demonstrate very clearly to the federal government that they will use the money in a project that will benefit the people.
Comrade Ugolo further disclosed that the federal government and the United Kingdom authorities are currently negotiating a memorandum of understanding on how the money will be spent when it is finally released to Nigeria in no distant time. The $9.6 million is part of the proceeds of corruption and were illegally laundered to the United Kingdom by former governor of Delta State, Chief James Onanefe Ibori. And now to Rivers State. Governor Nyesom Wike last week reacted to an allegation by the 2015 governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC in Rivers State, Dr. Dakuku Peterside, that the state's #1 citizen insulted custodians of the people's culture and tradition at the quarterly meeting of the State Council of Traditional Rulers in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. In a press statement issued by Commissioner for Information in Rivers State, Mr. Paulinus Nsirim, Governor Wike maintained that the video was manipulated to portray him in bad light before the Rivers people. The governor also accused Dr. Peterside of sponsoring the said video to get political relevance in Rivers State. The statement reads in part, and I quote, "As usual, we were amused by the lame effort by the 2015 defunct Rivers APC governorship candidate Mr. Dakuku Peterside to seek political relevance through a jaundiced interpretation of a mischievously edited video of the interaction between the Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike and esteemed traditional rulers of Rivers State," unquote. In the statement, the Wike government further observed that Dakuku Peterside and his faction of the All Progressives Congress APC procured a video of an engagement that lasted for over 1 hour and lifted different aspects of the response of Governor Wike to mislead members of the public. Dakuku Peterside had earlier reacted to the video in which Wike allegedly threatened to withdraw state recognition of traditional rulers who failed to carry their staff of office at state functions, and went ahead to describe one of them as troublesome. Dr. Peterside's allegation reads thus, and I quote, "Wike's penchant for embarrassing traditional rulers is becoming irresponsible and shameful. Never in our history have we had such a disrespectful governor. Since 2015, Wike had sacked, deposed, and withdrawn recognition from several royal fathers without any recourse to history and culture. Not too long ago, Wike threatened to depose the Amayanabo of Kalabari Kingdom, King Theophilus Princewill, just as he has severally lambasted traditional rulers as if they were his servants," unquote. At this point, we bring you excerpts from the allegedly sponsored video that went viral on social media.
Before I read my speech, I'll declare this 112 quarterly meeting open. I just want to ask, how many of the traditional rulers came with their staff of office? Can they stand with their staff of office? Okay, see that, no problem. I hope you understand the implication of staff of office. I cannot be addressing you and some of you are using your ordinary walking stick when you come here. So since you don't want to have your staff of office, I'll give it to other people. You don't know the authority it carries. You are coming for a quarterly meeting, and what identifies you is your staff of office. It's not for you to take it and go and keep in your bedroom or put it in your shrine. There are people who worship various shrines. It's for you to, when you're coming out for official function, you come with it. That differentiates you with any other ordinary chief. We must show good example. I agree with what you have said. In fact, I want to tell the Attorney General to make sure that we propose a bill to the State House of Assembly. If you're not the government-recognized traditional ruler, you cannot answer your royal highness. Stop clapping. You are being selfish. Don't stop clapping. It's not something to clap. It's something that should be done, which is the right thing. It's not because of you, because you won't be there forever. Stop shaking your head. Because that's sacrifice for you. You should stop shaking your head. You are one of those who are causing problem. They gave you chieftaincy. You're a young boy, so you don't even know what to do with it. And then when I'm speaking, you're shaking your head like this. Oh, fake, causing problem everywhere.
Well, since it went viral on social media, Governor Wike's outburst has generated an avalanche of reactions from the viewing public. And this is their impression on the controversial video.
Well, the governor being frank about their staff of office is not a bad idea. Yeah, you are a traditional ruler, you should carry your staff of office. It shows who you are. But I think where he went overboard was embarrassing the traditional ruler. That even if he knew him a long time ago, he shouldn't embarrass him that much. We could see the result of his embarrassment on the face of the traditional ruler, even if he's a young boy compared to the age of the governor.
His approach was too harsh. So, but though I plead to the other that they should just keep it aside.
So it was a little bit hard on them. He should have been careful to know that, much as he said, that those chiefs will not be there forever. He ought to have known that he too will not be there forever. So, and no matter what it takes, our people say, no matter how small a shrine is, they use two hands to carry it.
Well, it's up to discerning viewers to tell whether or not that video was actually doctored, as the Rivers State Governor has insisted. And now, moving away from that, the Minister of State for Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Omotayo Alasha Odura, says the ministry has zero tolerance for the culture of projects abandonment under the leadership of Senator Godswill Akpabio. Senator Alasha Odura gave the assurance recently when he went to inspect the ministry's housing scheme at Sokmomba Road in Benin City, the Edo State capital. Correspondent Kenami Ofuri has details.
The Sokmomba Housing Estate project was awarded in 2010 to provide quality and affordable accommodation for its beneficiaries. Although the project has reached an advanced stage, it has been stalled by lack of support and cooperation from its host community for what is described as its poor delivery. While on an inspection tour of the housing scheme, Senator Alasha Odura observed some gaps in its conception but vowed that its ministry would revive the project to avoid wastage in the system. In his meeting with Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki at Government House, Benin, Senator Alasha Odura brought the subject to the fore.
Very discouraged and sad when I saw the housing scheme that is being put up by our ministry in this state. It was so bushy, almost everything has been vandalized, and I believe even if that place had been completed completely, people would not want to come there. We should try and work out a synergy on how, when projects are conceived, they should be discussed with states so that we don't have duplication of efforts.
In his response, Governor Obaseki, who promised to work with the ministry to revive the housing project, also underscored the need for closer collaborations in key aspects of the economy, particularly in energy development.
We must begin to look at areas of collaboration. If the World Bank, UNICEF, other governments can come in and do joint projects with states, there's really no reason why federal ministries can't come and do joint projects with states or bring a group of states together to collaborate on a mega project. So in the area of energy sufficiency, particularly electricity, looking at the distribution and transmission networks.
During his recent tour of the Niger Delta, Senator Alasha Odura was in Government House, Akugha, to meet with Governor Rotimi Akeredolu. At the meeting, Senator Alasha Odura informed his host that the Niger Delta Ministry will in the present dispensation focus on legacy projects.
Now we are not going to participate in too many projects because as at today, the NDDC has close to 12,000 abandoned projects. So if we now decide to start awarding contracts upon contracts again, we will be adding to the problem that is already pervasive. So we decided, and Mr. President agreed with us, that we should go for what we call legacy projects. And what I have chosen as the number one legacy project of Ondo State is that link road from here to Lagos.
This issue of forensic auditing is so important. And I'm happy that you are taking it the way it's supposed to be. Because there are so many abandoned projects by NDDC in Ondo State. We don't need new project. Go and complete the ones you have on ground.
Both leaders also discussed efforts made so far to commence work on the Akure Ado-Ekiti and Elijah Lagos road construction projects.
Inside the Niger Delta.
And now to issues of environment. Residents of Ase Azaga community in Ogba, Igbima, Ndoni local government area of Rivers State have called on the Rivers State government to save them from seasonal coastal floods threatening to wipe out the entire community. Correspondent Lovely Ofigo reports that some affected residents who lost their houses and farmlands at the peak of last year's floods have since been rendered homeless and penniless.
Asiazaga is one of the 5 communities in Ndoni town where the menace of coastal floods has assumed a frightening dimension. Over the years, the Niger River has gradually encroached on vast parcels of land, claiming several houses and economic trees in the community.
Most of the buildings they took their pictures before are right now inside the water. People have relocated, and so many people that we are having houses before are no more living in a better house simply because of the landslide.
What we are seeing now, in time to come, if not checked, there will be no community like Asiazaga again.
The outbreak of seasonal floods in Ndoni communities has equally taken a huge toll on their economic life as farmlands are constantly eroded by coastal floods. According to affected residents, the incident has resulted in widespread hunger in the land.
The farmland are also affected by this environmental disease. The cassava, the yam, the pepper, the groundnut, and the garden egg. They were all flooded this year. So the women are all crying because it has affected their source of income.
The flood menace drew the attention of the Rivers State government in 2017 when Governor Nyesom Wike flagged off the shoreline protection project in the area. Governor Wike had directed a speedy completion of the project to save lives and properties in the endangered communities.
I saw the permanent secretary, Ministry of Special Projects. I don't want to be seeing you in Port Harcourt. Come back here and leave and make sure the contractor is doing his work. I want the job to be completed on record time.
With contractors yet to mobilize the site over 2 years after the Ndoni shoreline protection project was flagged off, residents of Asiazaga and its neighboring communities are getting worried over government's indifference to their plight.
We are crying to the federal government. Mr. President Buhari was also crying to our governor, Mr. Project, to come to our aid. Before this tenure will finish, let him make sure that our communities are saved.
The annual coastal flood ravaging Ndoni communities and other parts of the Niger Delta may have receded during the dry season, but their devastating impacts are still visible in the affected communities. When contacted, Permanent Secretary of the Bureau of Special Projects in Rivers State, Onzurike Okere, urged Ndoni communities to be patient as the shoreline protection project is captured in this year's budget.
Inside the Niger Delta.
And in Bayelsa State, lawmaker representing Sagbama Ikirimo Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives, Honorable Fred Agbedi, has called on the federal government to immediately intervene in the plight of Asamabiri community in Sagbama local government area of the state, which has come under the siege of coastal erosion. Honorable Agbedi's calls follows a recent landslide that left properties worth millions of naira destroyed in the community.
Residents of Asamabiri community, who are predominantly farmers and fisher folks, depend on their land for survival. Unfortunately, vast portions of arable land have been lost over the years to periodic landslide occasioned by coastal erosion. Recently, there was another landslide that caused a huge panic in the community.
We are scared on what is going to happen next. Our plea to the federal government, donor agency, and all the agencies that have been handling issues like this should please come to our aid.
Some of the worst victims of the recent landslide are subsistence farmers now confronted with limited land to grow their crops.
This erosion incident has been on since the early 70s. But in the early 90s, the federal government intervened with this current erosion control that we have here. But the intervention was not inclusive enough in the sense that the length it took was not enough, which is the reason why we are having this failure that we are observing now. And the one we have now is so devastating than even what we had before.
The situation has drawn the attention of Honorable Fred Agbedi, whose federal constituency covers Asamabiri community.
If immediate action is not taken before the next rains, we are of course waiting for a bigger calamity to happen to these people. And so my call on the federal government is to intervene almost immediately through the Ecological Fund.
Honorable Agbedi's recent tour of his constituency took him to Agoro community, where a fire outbreak in a local market had gutted several stalls and homes. Left stranded and displaced by the Agoro fire incident, its victims have appealed to relevant authorities for financial assistance.
That was on the 3rd of January when this fire incident occurred. When I came here, I'm with all of my trousers with anything, so there is nothing that was survive in the house. Everything burned off.
Honorable Agbediwu has made a personal commitment to assist victims of the fire incident wants the federal government to come to their aid.
It's unfortunate that this has happened to people who are managing their lives, with their shops, their trade, their businesses that hand them living with which they hack out their own living every day. I'm calling on NEMA to intervene.
In recognition of Agbedi's many contributions to the development of his constituency and other parts of Bayelsa State, the state chapter of the Nigerian Union of Journalists has conferred an award of excellence on the federal lawmaker.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Well, that's the size of our package for today. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, we'll be back same time, same station next week. Until then, you can follow us on our social media handles showing right now on your screen. Until same time, same station next week, I am Mamode Akugha saying thank you so much for watching and bye for now.